Today we're actually stepping off that bright, glitzy casino floor, and we are walking straight into the back offices to uncover the hidden, highly structured financial world of casinos. Honestly, it's one of the most fascinating, tightly regulated, and deeply misunderstood business models on the planet. By the time we wrap up this explainer, you're going to see these massive neon resorts in a completely different light.
Okay, let's dive right into this massive contradiction staring us in the face. It's the ultimate question, right? If the house always wins, and mathematically it absolutely does, why on earth do so many of these enormous casinos end up going bankrupt? It just seems impossible. You've got a business that has a statistical edge baked into its very product, and yet we see these frequent, spectacular business failures, even in booming gambling markets. So, how does a business that literally prints money run out of money?
Let's start by unpacking part one, the easy money illusion.
Which brings us right into part two, the price of admission.
Because owning a casino, it's not just setting up some card tables and collecting cash. We are talking $300 to $600 million. That is the construction cost for just a mid-sized commercial casino in a place like Ohio or Pennsylvania. Think about it. Hundreds of thousands of square feet of gaming floors, hotel towers, massive parking structures. You've got to pour the concrete, install the steel, and build these insane electrical and HVAC systems that can keep a gigantic, windowless building comfortable for tens of thousands of people. And it has to run 24 hours a day, nonstop. And hey, once that massive building is up, you actually have to fill it. A single high-end slot machine, that's going to run you between $15,000 and $25,000, just one. So if you have a modest casino floor holding about 2,000 machines, you've just dropped $30 to $50 million on hardware before a single lever is even pulled. Then add in the table games. They need felt, chip inventories, card shufflers, elite security cameras. Absolutely none of it is cheap, and frankly, none of it is optional.
But get this, the ultimate barrier to entry is just wild. $500 million. That was the cost of a single downstate New York casino license application fee, just to apply. In most industries, having capital means you can open up shop, right? Not here. You are literally competing for a scarce, government-issued permission slip. In Massachusetts, just the license alone went for $85 million at an auction. Before you sell a single chip, you're spending tens, sometimes hundreds of millions on legal fees, compliance, background checks, and licenses. That's exactly why you almost never see individuals owning these places anymore. It takes massive corporations with ironclad balance sheets just to survive the pre-revenue spending. All right, let's shift gears to part three, decoding casino revenue.
So a modern casino is honestly like 4 or 5 different businesses all stacked inside one giant building. Sure, the table games get all that cool James Bond prestige, but those flashing, kind of unglamorous slot machines, they actually generate between 60 and 70% of total gaming revenue. Why? Because they are wildly efficient. They don't need a dealer, there's no training required, they take up barely any floor space compared to a craps table, and they run 24/7 without ever taking a break. A single machine can pull in hundreds of dollars in net revenue every single day. But gambling is really only part of the equation here. Think about traditional hospitality. A normal hotel absolutely has to make a direct profit on its rooms and food. A casino, though? They'll often price hotel rooms way below market value, and they run those lavish buffets at extremely thin margins, sometimes even taking a loss. And why would they do that? Because a full stomach and a cheap room mean you aren't going to leave the building to go to a competitor. They are highly calculated loss leaders designed strictly to keep your feet firmly planted on that gaming floor. And this brings us to the absolute genius of the comp system. First off, the casino tracks your player data with terrifying precision. Based entirely on your betting patterns, they calculate your theoretical win, which is the exact dollar amount they statistically expect to make off you. Then, they simply give a percentage of that expected profit back to you in the form of a free room or a nice steak dinner just to keep you playing longer. They aren't losing money on that free steak, folks. They've mathematically priced it in. It's highly precise profit retention. Moving on to part 4, the mathematical guarantee. See, profit for a casino isn't just some goal that depends on having good marketing. It is a mathematical guarantee baked directly into the rules of the games themselves. American roulette carries a house edge of 5.26%. Slots run anywhere from 4 to 15%, and blackjack drops to about 0.5% if played perfectly, which, by the way, is exactly why they quietly ask card counters to leave. Now, an individual player might get lucky and win on a random night, sure, but across millions of bets placed by thousands of players every single day, the law of large numbers takes over.
That house edge converts into real, predictable, totally bankable revenue. The math has already told them they are going to win. Which finally brings us to part 5, why casinos actually fail. So if the math is an absolute guarantee, how does this whole illusion of infinite money just shatter? Well, it all comes down to crushing fixed costs. These bills absolutely have to be paid whether the gaming floor is packed shoulder to shoulder or completely empty. Labor alone eats up 30 to 40% of total revenue. You're employing thousands of dealers, security teams, hotel staff. You have elite round-the-clock surveillance, massive debt service from hundreds of millions in construction loans, and 24/7 utilities for a windowless, gigantic climate-controlled box. The cash burn rate is just staggering. And then, oh man, there are the taxes. Regulatory geography can single-handedly destroy a casino's profit margins. Take Nevada, for example. The gaming tax rate there is a pretty reasonable 6.75%. But in Pennsylvania, they tax slot machine revenue at 54%. Literally, the state takes more than half of everything those machines bring in before the casino even begins to pay for its own labor, its utilities, or its debt. Geography alone can totally make or break a business's viability. And on top of those brutal taxes, these owners are walking a massive regulatory tightrope. Unlike your average retail store down the street, a casino's entire business can be shut down instantly by a regulator. If a casino fails to properly handle anti-money laundering protocols, or if they accidentally allow underage gambling, gaming commissions can levy fines in the tens of millions of dollars, or just flat out revoke their license entirely. One single severe compliance failure can undo years of hard-earned profit. So, when we look at places like Atlantic City, which saw this huge wave of closures despite a booming past, we find the real casino killers. Spoiler alert, it is never a lucky gambler. It's oversaturation of the local market, it's heavy construction debt that suddenly becomes unpayable when interest rates shift, it's fierce nearby competitors opening up just across the state line and draining your customer base. The house edge guarantees you win against the player, for sure, but it does absolutely nothing to protect you from the crushing weight of your own debt and local competition.
And that brings us to our final thought for this explainer, which is summed up perfectly by this quote from our source material. The house wins against the player. Whether it wins against everything else stacked against it, that's a completely different game. Casinos carry this enormous, incredibly expensive, tightly regulated machine on their backs that has to keep running at scale, every single day, forever. The very second the volume stops, no statistical edge in the world can save them. So the next time you walk onto a vibrant, flashing casino floor, maybe ask yourself, who is really taking the bigger gamble here, you or the house? Thanks so much for learning with me today, and keep asking the big questions.